Necrobuster. Napalm Death is it gets called a political band.
Salvation of what I see in others.
When you go camping, you get to see the Milky Way galaxy.
Punk rock type attitude too. We're just going to try to, gross you out with our music.
Yo, what's up? This is John from Noise Dosage Media, bringing you some of the most innovative and unique extreme metal musicians on air to have an in-depth conversation about things you probably didn't know until now. Before we unravel this episode, we want to bring attention to our driving force of visual creativity. Begrudgingly Benny creates one-of-a-kind creatures that you can't find anywhere else but below. His focus is on old-school style, slimy stippling that is budget-friendly for all bands or tattoo desires. Stay updated on the sludge by following at begrudgingly_Benny on Instagram. Wither Designs raises the dead with pen and ink and gives them new life with acidic color. Withered is eager to accompany your next album, merchandise, or zine with new, kick-ass, necromantic artwork. Keep up with the Horde by following him at withered_designs on Instagram. Thanks for tuning in, and let's dive into this. Yeah, so what point in your life were you considered like hooked on the style of extreme music? And I'm talking like metal. I mean, you obviously do a whole bunch of different genres and stuff, but metal in specific.
I'd say when I was about 6 or 7, my cousin started playing me things like Ozzy and Loudness. So we're talking like 81, 82 at this point. And from right there, I was hooked on it. It was so different than anything I'd experienced. It was so immersive. From there, he got me into things like AC/DC. At the same time, my dad was getting me into things like Led Zeppelin and Blue Oyster Cult. And then it just progressed. And then by the time it got to be like 88, 89, Carcass's Reek of Putrefaction came out.
Oh, wow.
And I was maybe a freshman in high school. Let's see. So yeah, 89, I would have been a freshman in high school. And there's a Finnish exchange student at my school. And he knew I was into heavy music. At that point in time, I was listening to things like Anthrax. And he said, hey, you should check out this Reek of Putrefaction record. And it blew my mind, and my life has never been the same.
Damn. Yeah, that's pretty good. I mean, two things off of what you just said. Like, number one, Ozzy is still alive. I say this all the time to my friends. I'm like, out of all the people that are still living that have been so messed up on drugs and stuff, he is still here, and he just dropped like some new music. I don't know, maybe a year ago, a couple months ago. I don't even remember, but it's good. Like Ozzy is still just doing his thing.
Yeah, I didn't check it out. I heard that it existed, but I didn't check it out. But I mean, Ozzy, I can't really claim to really follow him anymore, but he was huge for me as a kid. And I remember at one point in time, my mom was talking about the King of Rock and Roll, referring to Elvis, obviously. But I just assumed she meant Ozzy, because to me, he was the King of Rock and Roll. I mean, he was, he was my idol growing up. I mean, I love Ozzy, and I'm nervous about the day that he may not be here anymore.
Yeah, no, I feel you, man. Like, so my like idol was like Eddie Van Halen.
Oh yeah, of course.
And like he had like such a like Ozzy had a strong visual appearance.
Mm-hmm.
He really laid into like the album artwork.
Oh yeah,
everything about him to a teenage kid is attracting. Like you're like, whoa, what
Bark
is this?
At the Moon, the video, the shirts. I mean, amazing.
Yeah, man, and like, I mean, like I fell down an Ozzy rabbit hole when I was younger too, and like I'd say that made a hard turn on me because, like, I mean, you look at that and you're like, what is going on with this music? What else is there?
It was so different than what I was used to. I was like way into like, I don't know, like the Police and shit like that. I was really into music, but just
Yeah.
never experienced anything like that. And then I think I heard Diary of a Madman first, or not really sure. But just like the spectacle of it, I never really got into Kiss. That was a little too,
Yeah.
I don't know what the right word is. A little bit too poppy for me, I guess. I don't really know,
Right.
but Ozzy hit me in just a totally different way. And yeah, I had a Bark at the Moon T-shirt in like second grade, and like all the letters glowed in the dark, and yeah, just I was
you,
obsessed.
you're the coolest kid in school back in the day,
Oh, I was
man.
definitely the coolest kid in school. I had like Bloister Cult shirts and Van Halen shirts, and my family. I can't really say that they're musical, but they definitely supported the music that I was into, and they were very much into music. My dad
Right.
used to be a promoter, so he really had his finger on the pulse of like certain types of music, and so yeah, I just they had no problem buying me records and T-shirts and shit like that. So
That's nice that they supported you, man. Like they how do I put this? They allowed this type of music
yeah,
in.
yeah,
There's a lot of parents like the Twisted Sister movie. There's a lot of those parents out there,
yep.
younger, where they're like, "You're not going down that path to
Oh,
listen to
sure.
that music."
Yeah. I mean, I grew up listening to metal during the Satanic Panic era, so,
Oh
um,
yeah, with
you
with
know,
are you talking about the black metal
no,
in
no,
the
like,
scare?
no, like, I mean, earlier. I mean, I'm 46, so, we're talking Judas Priest, Ozzy,
Oh
uh,
man.
PMRC stuff, so, I had a lot of friends that were listening to metal, but they had to hide it from their parents, or like Dungeons and Dragons. That was a big thing for me too. But I had friends that had to hide it because it was, satanic, and Tipper Gore and the PMRC would get you. And
Yeah.
yeah, so
Isn't that so funny nowadays? Like
I know
I
it's,
find it I find it hilarious like horror movies for an example.
yeah,
I get I think I remember I was talking to Matt from Exhumed,
okay.
and he was basically saying that it's just hilarious how horror movies were kind of um more explicit than metal, really. I mean, metal is
Oh
basically just
yeah,
a
for
form
sure.
of a horror movie,
Yeah.
just in audio form.
Uh-huh.
People just people expressing that just in audio, and uh, but for some reason people take it and they're like, this is bad. Like this is not acceptable.
Right.
You know?
Well, I think it's funny looking back on it too, because the things that people were up in arms about in the 80s, pale in comparison to even pop music these days. Not so much the gore, but just the controversial themes and subject matters. And um, I think it's just really ironic. Like, it's a lot of that stuff, like Judas Priest and Ozzy, like they don't seem very radical in
Yeah, yeah.
2021 at all.
Yeah. And nowadays, I don't know if you've heard of bands like Fluids in like
No, I don't know Fluids.
so basically like um it's gotten to the point where like gore grind and I just call it like horror,
Hmm.
like bands are pushing it to the limits where they're taking actual like samples of people's suicides in like
Oh shit!
in like in like nowadays it's actually to the point where it could be scary,
Right.
like Ozzy might have been scary back in the day, but now people are actually using things that are, you know, eye opening
Like,
and
and actually real.
well, now it's to the point where censorship is a thing. Like Facebook and Instagram and all these social media
Yeah,
platforms
true.
are
Good
censoring
point.
them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where I mean, back in the day, what would you say about censorship now versus then?
Well, I think, I mean, at least from my point of view, I mean, in the 80s, censorship was bleeping out some words on a record, or on TV or something like that. Um, Now I feel like I guess I feel like now with social media and things like that, and with a lot of like news outlets coming from so many different places, that ideas are censored more than words, you know.
Right. Right.
Which I mean, I think it's a really complex issue. I mean, I think that uh, I don't agree with censorship at all, but I also have a hard time agreeing with giving platforms to certain dangerous ideas.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That's not. I don't want to be the guy to say what's a dangerous idea either. So it's a very, very complicated issue. But I feel like the censorship in the '80s was very surface level, and they're censoring things that really didn't matter. Where I feel like now it's gone even deeper, and I think it's become more dangerous to the average person, I guess. I mean, I don't know. It's really hard for me to wrap my brain around, actually, because it's like I said, I think it's more about like trying to censor ideas more than like the word fuck or something like that.
Right.
Which on one hand I think is probably more appropriate, but on the other hand, like, I mean, censoring ideas, it's a horrifying concept. So yeah, that's a question
And
best
you'd have to
asked
really
to somebody
think about
else.
it. Yeah. No, I know. Like, usually I don't ask those type of questions, but it was just one of those that like came in. Censorship. Censorship. I feel like you could talk about that for hours, but you really
Yeah.
have to wrap your head around it.
Well, and I don't really know. I mean, I know the landscape of the '80s from the perspective of like a 10-year-old. You know, and I mean, now it's I'm pretty involved in social media, but I don't really know pop culture, and I don't really know what's being censored. You know, so it's a fascinating topic. It's something I was really passionate about as a 10-year-old. But I'm a little bit out of the loop now, you know.
Yeah.
But
So
back in the day, I was all about, you know, fuck the PMRC, and I stopped drinking 7-Up because they gave money to the PMRC. And my friends and I, we went to go see Tipper Gore speak, and we held up signs that said "fuck Tipper Gore," and you know, we were way into that shit. We're at the prime age. But yeah, I'm a little out of touch with it now.
So here we go. The next idea I have is about like the evolution of this genre as a whole. Like, basically, what excites you about this genre right now? I mean, like,
You're talking about extreme metal in general?
yeah, and I'm talking about like, you know, the soundscape stuff, like
Okay.
just the variation of where this genre has gone in the last I don't know, 15 years or so. Like it's gotten a little bit, I'm not saying out of hand in a bad way, but
Oh yeah, it's out
just
of hand for sure.
where anybody and their mother is making music, and some of it's good, some of it's extremely good, and some people, I don't know, back in, I don't know, 100 years ago, you probably wouldn't be able to hear this person because the studio equipment wasn't there, and now it is literally for $100.
Yep.
So
yeah, I mean, I you know, there's pros and cons to it for sure. There's a glut of bands out there. There's a glut of information out there, and you know, the good part is you can, you know, within 3 seconds, 5 seconds, you can do a Google search and hear a rare demo from, you know, '82. But you can also plug in a guitar and make a demo in a half hour and put it out there, and, you know, call yourself Corpse Fucker or whatever, and then you have you have a demo out there, and you're adding to, you're diluting the scene in a way, and it's just, you're adding to the glut of information out there. But I don't know. I also think I kind of come from a punk background a little bit too, so I definitely appreciate the idea of just, you know, some 14-year-old kid with a guitar sitting in his room and, making the most brilliant music. I mean, if you look at a lot of the old like Swedish death metal people too, like Entombed, I mean, they were 15, 16 when they were making Left Hand Path. I mean, I think that's like those types of yardsticks are really important to keep in mind. It makes good music, much harder to find, but I think it can be really rewarding too. And as far as genres go, it's just it adds to the glut of it too, because you've got, I feel like, when I was first getting into like death metal in like 88, 89, there was only a handful of bands I could get into, and it was just death metal. But now it's like, I mean, all these death metal guys, they're also into dungeon synth, they're into dark ambient, they're into power electronics, they're into goth, they're into post-punk, and they have all these side projects. And so I feel like it's not just death metal or not just extreme metal, it's not just black metal anymore. It's like you've got all these offshoots that kind of live under the same umbrella, and which is, I think, exciting and amazing, but it just adds to it too. Like, I mean, I just feel like you can't possibly keep up with what's going on in extreme metal anymore. There's just no way. I don't really even try. I'll check out things here and there, but usually if somebody that I trust recommends it. But I've been listening to extreme metal for over 30 years.
Right.
So sometimes there's things that excite me, and sometimes I'm like, even like some of the newer bands that are really good, it's like, yeah, they're really good, but man, I've heard the same record. It's called Like an Ever Flowing Stream. I heard it 30 years ago. So yeah, I don't know. Like I said, lots of pros and cons to that whole situation. I think overall, it's probably a good thing that people have more access to making music and listening to music, but it definitely poses some complex problems.
Right. So I was just hanging out with Incantation a few weeks ago.
I love Incantation. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm doing a documentary, right? And one of the coolest things that I was told that'll always stick in my head is something off kind of what you said is, your 15-year-old self grinding to learn an instrument could be more proficient and efficient, whatever, than somebody that could be like, I don't know, 50 to 60 years old, that has been playing for like 30 years. And I thought that was the coolest thing, because like I remember when I was about that age, I was like practicing so many hours a day, and the fact that I could attempt to record something was like a blessing.
For sure. Yeah.
And I mean, as of right now, I wish I had like the knowledge I did, because I don't remember anything that I wrote when I was younger. Because like I wasn't as, how do I put it? I didn't really know how to use a DAW.
Yeah.
But now that I do, I can actually get somewhere with my music. And I'm not saying that like I'm just saying I can save my music so I remember what the hell I was writing.
It's way easier to document ideas. It's way easier to capture songs. When I was doing this, when I first started doing this, I had a band in Montana where I grew up, and our only option was to just record on a boombox. It's just one shitty microphone built into a boombox. I think I started my first band in 91. That was the only option, and now it's like, I mean, it's leagues beyond that. I mean, you look at what people are doing in a home studio, even on a laptop, it's mind blowing. I mean, we have Grammy winning artists that are recording, on $5,000 worth of equipment. It's just
right.
Which is, it's a beautiful thing in so many ways. But yeah, I mean, it just adds to the bullshit out there.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah. I mean, I I swear, like every time I listen to a new metal band right now, I'm pretty underwhelmed.
Yeah.
But like I said, I mean, I've been listening to this shit for a really long time, so you tend to kind of feel like you've heard it all.
Right.
Every now and then, though, every now and then there's something I hear. I'm like, holy shit! Like, fuck. From Colorado, Black Curse. Is that what they're called? Black Curse? Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, fucking killer. I loved that record. Bought it right away. So yeah, every now and then, like something hits me just right. But
I mean, it's funny you say that because like I've been told since I started this podcast, I thought the opposite, but a lot of like metal musicians don't listen. I mean, I'm not saying that you don't listen to it at all, but a lot of musicians have told me that they just like don't listen to metal. And I'm like I kind of find that weird, but at the same time, it brings a better um, creative element to those people because they're not like always listening to it, so they don't
yeah,
really lay into their influences probably as much.
yeah, they're not like stuck in time. I still listen to a lot of metal. I just find myself listening to a lot of the older stuff. You know, the stuff that I grew up with, the stuff that really informed who I am. Um, but I listen to a lot of newer stuff, and I also listen to a lot of different things as well. It's not just metal, but I think there's a real, I don't know, like I understand when people say they don't listen to metal anymore, like they don't listen to any of the newer bands, but I also think there's a real danger of getting caught up with nostalgia, and I think nostalgia it can be poison, and it can just,
It could be poison to the new bands because they're not given a chance, maybe. But at the same time, I mean, I see where you come from. If you're creating the same artwork, you're not going to go to a museum and see the same thing.
yeah. I mean, I just think like I understand people getting nostalgic for certain things, but at the same time, I think it can really kill creativity if you're just trying to reinvent the wheel all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, I would love to, you know, write another Storm of the Light's Bane or something like that, but it's already been done. Like, let's move on. Let's do something else. And I think getting stuck in that, there's like all these like 80s and 90s revival stuff, and like I get it to a point, but I don't know. I just feel like let's do something different. Let's do something that nobody's done before, or
Right.
like
Dude, you've definitely done that, man. You've had you know, like checking out your Bandcamp. I didn't, to be completely like honest with you, I didn't know what um you were doing before I saw this email. Like, I mean, I know like the big band you were in, but I didn't know that you released almost freaking, I think it was like 15 or 20 self releases, like the
oh yeah,
sound
man.
stuff.
I don't even know, man. I've got so much shit going on. I mean, obviously I'm best known for Agalloch, but I mean, I've been, like I said, I've been making music since around 91 or so, and I have no idea how many records I've released. I mean, I think right now I'm in 16 active bands. Um,
Oh God.
it's too much. It's overwhelming, but
And then
um,
and then you're releasing like solo stuff. It's crazy,
yeah,
man. So looking at your Bandcamp, I'm like, I need to get going on writing music. Like this guy grinds out
yeah,
stuff.
yeah. I have been most of my life. It's been the I have a family, and family comes first, but making music is a very close second. And I mean, I've been doing it all my life. It's something that I don't feel like myself if I'm not making music, or if I'm not a part of it somehow. I mean, at this point, like I said, I think it's like 15 active bands. I've also got a podcast.
Yeah.
I've got a t-shirt line. I'm reissuing like classic metal t-shirts from bands like Confessor and Disharmonic Orchestra. I'm always working at something. I've worked for labels. I've worked for magazines. I've done almost everything. at this point, and I almost have too much to handle as well. But
Right.
I love it. I love being part of the music scene. I love releasing music. I love making music. The people I meet and the relationships I've built and the community I've become a part of is amazing to me, and it's become like the biggest pleasure of my life. So I just can't
Yeah.
stop. Just can't stop.
And the funny thing is, people, the coworkers I have, they just say, "You listen to that loud,
Yeah,
obnoxious
shit.
yelling music," and I'm
Yeah,
like, "You have no fucking
yeah.
idea, like
Fuck that,
what."
man. Yeah,
I'm like, "You have no." I mean, a lot of it is just old like boomers that know
sure,
absolutely nothing about
sure.
anything, but they just have no idea how much more it is than that.
Yep.
Like
Oh yeah,
it's just funny because like there's just so much to it that like by you saying that like magazines, you doing magazines, you doing um it, the music, being in multiple bands, like there's just there's just more passion. I feel with this music. That's what I've really learned.
yeah.
Like bottom line
I
is like yeah, passion.
yeah, I 100% agree, and that's one of the things that first drew me to the scene, and has kept me in the scene too. When I first got involved, it was tape trading. It was xeroxing magazines and sending them out all over the world. It was sending letters to people. It was self-addressed stamped envelopes, shit like that. But it blew my mind because I didn't know of any other music scene where like the average person can just like buy a demo or just
Right.
write
Right.
to a band in Finland and send them some money, and they send you back a letter and a sticker and a demo tape. Or that where you could start a magazine at Kinko's and interview these bands too. Like that's not happening in country music. It's not happening in pop music. Um, and it still continues to this day. And the thing that impressed me about extreme metal from day one is that, like, of course there's passionate fans of every form of art, but I really don't think it's quite the same with extreme metal. I mean, everybody that's involved wants to be involved more than just being a casual listener. And
Yeah.
there's no casual listeners for extreme metal. It's an identity, it's a lifestyle, it's a business, it's an art form. It's just so much more than like I'm going to put this on in the background and do my homework, you know.
Right.
Um,
Right.
and
Right.
and it just goes to show you, for the people that are into it, how important and life changing it can be. And for me, I mean, it has defined who I've been since the age of 14. 100%.
Yeah. Yeah. So like another big thing, I mean, at least for me, because I've started this podcast and whatever, um, you don't see a lot of these. Like, I'll just go down the rap rabbit hole for
Hmm.
about a minute or so. You don't see them doing okay. They have big numbers on Spotify. That doesn't mean shit. Okay, I mean numbers are numbers.
Yep.
So you have a big rapper, but he will not hop on a podcast and just talk to you like a normal person like you're doing
Hmm.
right now. Like your bands have
Right.
big numbers, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
I
the
mean,
difference I've noticed, I mean, just for this podcast alone is like um a lot of the people that I talk to are more level-headed. Like they don't think of themselves as like huge like rock stars,
yep.
whatever. Um
Yeah. Well,
and
I think you have to, I mean, it's I mean, you've got some pretty big names in extreme metal, but still, like, I mean, I think probably the biggest band in extreme metal is Cannibal Corpse.
yeah,
And
dude, I just talked to fucking Paul like a few months ago. And
yeah,
I'm not saying that to like stroke an ego or anything, but fucking Paul, like I look at him as a fucking legend, and I
oh
just
yeah,
literally texted the guy. I'm like, "Hey
yeah,
man, let's talk," and he's like, "Sure."
oh yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
yeah, dude. At Agalloch was playing festivals. God, it was fucking 5 years ago in Europe. We kept playing the same festivals with Cannibal, and then Alex Webster heard that we're from Portland, and he came
Yeah.
over to me and he was like, "Dude, I just moved to Portland. Like, do you want to hang out?" And I was like,
That's
"Hell!"
cool, man.
It's like, "Hell yeah, man!" So Alex and I have been friends ever since.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I mean, but that's what I'm talking about. Like, they're probably like the biggest band in extreme metal, and still, like, you can text them, get them on your podcast. You could, like, I've taken Alex out for dinner a couple times. Like, it's just,
That's awesome.
they're not inaccessible, and
Right.
like, there's no way in hell I'm going to go have dinner with Dr. Dre tomorrow.
Exactly. They just I just I don't see that ever happening. Like you're never gonna call up what's a big name like Snoop Dogg and be like, hey man, hey man, I want to talk to you. Like,
Oh, dude, I would love that though. That would be fucking amazing. But yeah, but I mean, but I don't want to misrepresent what I'm saying either. I think that there are those
yeah,
opportunities in those scenes, but I don't think they're as available. I mean,
right,
I grew
right.
up I grew up in Montana. Like, nobody knew what fucking death metal was in '91 in Montana, and I was able to start a zine from there. And I just don't think it's quite the same. Like, you don't have like hip hop zines coming out of Montana in 1991.
Well, another thing is the people, like for example, I made my own zine about a year ago. Well, not even a year, maybe 6 months ago,
Okay.
right? Um, I'm a horrible writer, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I struggle, man, but I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna make one, right? I've always
Yeah,
wanted to. So I made one and I had like massive support, man. Like
that's awesome. Yeah,
I
that's
had
great.
over 100 people buy the zine, right?
Oh, dude, that's great. Yeah.
And like for me as somebody that literally is not an English professor, but somebody's gonna support me um through something so small. It just the thing is like I didn't pay for promotion or anything. Like it just people just heard it through the grapevine, you
Yeah.
know? And I don't know. It just blows my mind that it's just yeah, just support, man. But
And that's the other thing too, is, when I was getting involved with this, and I mean, even today, it's just the support of everybody. I mean, it's just, it tends to be such a supportive community, of people. I mean, I can make a record. I mean, this is my PR campaign for my new record, Moonbladder. I mean, it's a
yeah,
fucking synth driven dark ambient record. It has nothing to do with metal, except there's a lot of metal people on it. But I mean, the response so far has been amazing, and people are like, "Oh man, like my favorite band is Broken Hope, but that fucking Moonbladder record, that's fucking great. Like,
right.
that's
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
That's great. I mean, people can expand their horizons enough to appreciate something like that. And yeah, I mean, and again, like, I don't want to come off saying that like I'm dissing the hip hop scene. I love hip hop.
No,
I
no,
listen to a lot
dude.
of hip hop.
Okay, anybody, I'm gonna just say it right now. Anybody that takes what we just said and twists our words is no, no,
Yeah,
no, no.
no,
Okay, we we respect the rap scene. We respect other genres, but there's
yeah,
a huge curve. There's a huge difference,
yeah.
and if
I think so. And I mean, prove me wrong. I mean, if it's inaccurate, I'd love to know. I've never. I mean, I think there is some of that. I think that it's
maybe
unique and
punk.
special.
I'd say
Punk,
punk is probably
punk.
the closest
Yep, yep. I would agree.
to metal.
I would agree. Punk. I think, obviously there's a lot of that. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's a really special scene. It's a special community of people. And yeah, it makes me happy.
Yeah. So let's dive into some promo.
All right.
Well, not promo, whatever. Let's just run down Moonbladder. Give me the rundown of it. How it started. I mean, I don't know. You've probably been asked those questions, but I'm gonna ask you something different. Like, what out of all your projects, what makes this one special?
Nothing.
Okay, okay.
No, I mean, no, I'm really proud of this record. I think it is special. It's Snares is an interesting project for me. I made a record. Let's see, it was probably about 10 or 12 years ago, under the name Self Spiller,
Uh,
and my idea was to talk to a bunch of people that I admired and respected. They were musicians, and just tell them, send me some stuff. Just play drums, play guitar line, sample something, scream something, sing something, and send it to me.
yeah.
And so I started almost like a painter with like a palette of colors. I started like making this record out of these things that people sent me. And then I would say like, hey, I have this drum part, record a guitar part of this drum part. And then I would assemble that and I would loop that and I would edit it and I would do all these things with it. And then about 5 years later, I had a record done, and it's called Worms in the Keys. It's the only Self-Spiller record, but it's got Mirai and Me Cannibal from Psy on it, and it's got Zvis from Dodheimsgard on there.
Nice.
It's got some pretty good names, and I'm really proud of it. But I felt like I had exhausted my possibilities with Self-Spiller, but I didn't feel like I exhausted my possibilities with that format.
Right.
So then a few years ago, I did a record called Yeast Mother. It was Snares of Sixes debut. That was released on Crucial Blast a few years ago. And that has Pete from Lawnmower Death on it. It's got Don from Agalloch. It's got a bunch of friends on it. And that was way more MIDI driven, way more like noisy, kind of like, I hate to say it, but kind of like the Locust in a way.
Mm-hmm.
And that was just an EP, but I was really proud of that. But it was just kind of like a stepping stone. And then after that record was released, I wanted to do a new one. And so I started working on Moonbladder 4 or 5 years ago. But it was the same concept. Little piece from this, little piece from that. This person sends me something. I build on it. I add keyboards, I add bass, all these things. And it's just layer upon layer upon layer. And then a lot of times I end up getting rid of the original layer because the layer that was recorded to the foundation is better than the foundation. So by the time I was done with Moonbladder, I had something like 98 tracks going. And part of it is it's MIDI. I went into the studio to record some of it. Some of it's recorded in Norway. Some of it's recorded in Canada. This stuff recorded in California, Colorado. There's live stuff there. My friends and I, we got together and we mic'd up this giant bed frame, and we were like bowing
awesome.
the bed frame, and we're hitting the bed frame with metal pipes. All these different layers. And actually, I've never told this to anybody before, but the original backbone of Moonbladder was a 25-minute version of Rush's Red Barchetta.
Okay.
I found a MIDI file of Red Barchetta, and I slowed it down to be 25 minutes, and then I started fucking with it and putting different instrumentation in there.
Yes, man. Yes.
Yeah, and then I just started building on that. But like I said earlier, the foundation goes away, and it's the layers on top that remain. So if you listen, I mean, nobody would ever be able to pick it out, but there is a part, I want to say around the 15-minute mark, that you can hear a little melody of Red Barchetta in the background. I kept it in there just kind of as like a remembering the past type of situation.
Yeah.
But music for me is I love it when it reveals itself. I try to keep myself out of it in a lot of ways. And I'm just letting stuff reveal itself to me. And I love happy accidents. I love taking chances. And Moonbladder was exactly that. And it came out so much better than I could have imagined. I honestly think it's one of the best things I've ever been a part of. And I'm insanely proud of it.
That's awesome. Yeah, when I was on your Bandcamp, I found a specific, I think it was an EP or a full length. It was about you fighting like sleep anxiety or sleep paralysis or whatever.
Sleep paralysis, yeah.
And that was, when I was listening to it, man, like there was So I don't really listen to noise often, but I will say, like, when I listen to that, if I could feel the music, it's good in my opinion. Like that
Yeah, yeah.
that's the whole point for me. Like, if I could feel something from it, if I can get hyped up, or if I can like, uh, I don't know, if it like makes me sad, miserable, happy, dude, that's the whole goal of it for me, and
Yeah, me
that did
too.
it.
Me too. Oh, thanks, man. That was interesting. That was, I back in the '90s and early 2000s, I used to make a lot of noise, and then I just kind of got out of it for a while. Agalloch started taking off, and I focused on that more. And then, a few years ago, I decided, it was a couple of years before Agalloch broke up, but I decided to make a 7-inch, and so I made that 7-inch. And at the time, I was suffering these like really weird bouts of sleep paralysis.
Yeah,
And at the same time, my stepfather passed away, and my very good friend Catherine Ludwig, the former editor
yeah.
editor of Metal Maniacs, she passed away too. And so I wrote these 2 songs about sleep paralysis and about those 2 people visiting me during my sleep paralysis. And yeah, I'm really happy with it, how it came out. I still have a ton of copies. It hasn't sold that well, but I'm really
No,
happy with it.
I'll have to get one from you, man, because like it was really good. And then I read the description, man. I was like, this album has a lot more meaning.
Yeah,
And I feel like that's one of the coolest things about metal. And I'm not saying about the situation. I'm talking about reading deeper
yep.
into what it's all about. What people like can talk about and sing about in metal. Like,
Hmm.
it's I don't know, like, I don't know how to put it, but sometimes like the whole yelling, there's a lot more behind it, man.
Yeah,
And like,
there sure is.
and if you search on Bandcamp and like look into the descriptions and stuff, and how a band traveled, hours away to go to a studio, and blah blah blah. I don't know. It just it blows my mind.
Yeah. I totally agree with you. And that release in particular, I put a lot of myself into that. I was grieving for my stepfather and my close friend, and at the same time, I wasn't sleeping very well, and so a lot of it was written while I was sleep deprived, and I was trying to work out emotions, and a lot of times for me, when I create music, it's not really about working out emotions.
Yeah.
It's more about just the pure act of creating. But this was definitely, I was trying to work through some stuff here, and now it's kind of hard for me to listen to. It gives me a lot of anxiety if I listen to it now.
Oh yeah. I mean, like, it was definitely one of those EPs that are like I said, like, it's emotional driven, bro. If you don't feel it, something's wrong.
Yeah,
Like, you're in the wrong headspace,
yeah,
like,
yeah,
you're driving in the car listening to this. You don't want to be doing that. It's more of like a how do I put this? Like, I was in my basement just jamming music, and I was like, this is deep, man. I don't I don't know if I should be diving down this hole right now, but
yeah. I mean, it's sometimes it's hard for me. There's certain music that affects me like that, and um, sometimes I have to be careful with what I'm putting in my head, and that's
yeah.
kind of what I was trying to do with that record. I was trying to release what was in my head and put it into the songs, and I think I did it okay. I mean, I
No,
always
you
feel like
did
I
it,
can do
man. It's
better.
good. No, I you're speaking. You're like yelling in a mirror to me. Like, I l- I always say that to myself. I'm like, I think this can be better.
Yeah, well, I mean, but that's the whole point of art. It can always be better, or else you just stop. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
always honestly, I'm always happy with what I do, but it's never 100%. I mean,
yeah,
and
yeah.
I've done some things that are like 20%. I mean, I've done some things that are like 95. I feel like for me, Moonbladder is a good solid like 95, but I kind of hope I never hit 100% because then why
then
continue?
you'd be bottoming out.
Yeah.
The boat will be bottoming out,
Yeah,
man.
that's it. I'm just always trying to make a record as good as Disco Volante. And
Yeah.
that's it. I'm just trying to replicate Mr. Bungle's second record. If I reach that point, I will throw away my stuff. I'll send all my gear to you and I'll be done. I mean,
Done.
That's my blueprint.
Pack it up.
Every record I make is I'm trying to recreate Disco Volante in a certain way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And for any Bungle nerds, they may recognize some definite nods in Moonbladder and other things I've done that are directly inspired or maybe even stolen from Mr. Bungle. Because they influence me so much.
You got to do, man. You got to do it.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've said this a few times on the podcast, but I had a very wise friend of mine that I used to record music with. He said to me, because I used to say that, I was like, shit, this would be a lot better if I practiced more, or damn, I wish I had spent some more time writing this. He said to me, he goes, you know, a record is like a painting. When an artist drops the paintbrush, they look at it and they say, you know, this could be better, but that's all the paint we got left, man. Like that. I mean,
that's
like
good.
At one point, you just have to just drop the freaking.
Yep.
Just drop it, and
that's totally true.
And the thing is, a canvas is only 24 by 24. Like you can only do so much, and like there's always room to improve. But that one canvas, you gotta just go with it, you know.
Yeah, and it's really important to know when to stop. You know, you don't want to overcook things, which sometimes I tend to do, but I've gotten better about it, I think. But you know, because of that, like if you're never quite at 100%, you always feel like, oh, maybe I should do this, maybe I should do that. And I mean, shit,
just sit on the music for a long time. I mean, like that's kind of my method to the madness right now. I mean, I'm just sitting on stuff, and then eventually, when I feel like putting together something, I will. But I mean, I feel like have a different approach to music, in which I mean, I wish I could do what you do and just drop a whole bunch of music. But
I feel like it's a little. You know, I've talked about this with people before because I've heard that from other people, and other people that are close friends and actually like are insanely amazing musicians and have amazing records out. They say the same thing to me, like, oh, it's, you know, I wrote this, but I'm still sitting on it. It doesn't feel complete. I don't know. I'm nervous to put it out there or whatever. But
yeah,
I feel like I'm usually working with people that in whatever capacity that keep me driven to produce, not just to create, but to produce as well.
Yeah.
You know, and whether it be like a bandmate or a label or something like that, like there's some kind of outside influence saying like,
get it done. Just
get it
do
done.
it.
Yeah. Like get it done. And also like, I don't want to sit on shit. I don't,
yeah.
You know, I want to release a record. Like if I hadn't released this record, I wouldn't be talking to you. I wouldn't have the vinyl sitting in my house. You know, I mean, it's important to release so then you can move on too. And that's where I think that's the biggest motivation for me is like, by the time I was done with Moonbladder, I was done. I want to move on. I want to do something else. And because I have other projects too, it keeps me motivated.
Always like, yeah, that's a good point.
I'm like, I got to wrap up this because I've got this other record that I want to work on. You know, another record of mine that just came out last week is the new Sculptured record. That I do with Don Anderson, from, you know, also from Agalloch, and we hadn't done a record in 13 years, and so it's like, okay, I got to finish up Moonbladder, so I can finish up the Sculptured record, so I can finish up the Dolvin record, so I can finish up. I'm working on a solo record right now. I've got a new band with Andy Whale from Bolt Thrower too. Working on that.
Oh man, so I love me some Bolt Thrower.
Oh man. Fuck, man, who doesn't? I mean, fucking Bolt Thrower. Yeah, so we're working on a demo for that right now. You know, I've got a few different experimental bands, a couple noise bands. It's just so much stuff. It keeps me motivated to actually produce and move on to the next thing.
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
It's really good to hear that. I mean, like I just do a riff. I try to do a riff a day. That doesn't work out. I try to do a riff every 2 days, but that's kind of my thing. I'll just
Yeah.
record it, forget about it, one day I'll do it. But
Are,
I like your I like the motivation that you got, man.
are you in a band, or are you just doing stuff for yourself, or what are you up to?
So I used to be in a band like years ago. I wasn't serious at all. But now I don't have a band, but I'm writing music.
That's cool.
Eventually, like I would like to play live again, but
Hmm.
um, yeah, live is where it's at, man. Like,
Oh yeah, I miss it.
I mean,
I love playing live.
where is it for you? Are you more of a live person or creating music?
Well, it's actually kind of funny. Most of my music making career, it was very much about the studio. It was very much about the creative process, and it still is to a large degree. But I'd say about I don't know, around 2010 or so, when Agalloch got pretty big, we were playing some really big shows, got some really great reception, and we were playing, in my opinion, very well.
Mm-hmm.
I got kind of hooked. So since then, it's become a much bigger part of who I am than it was in the past. And now I love it. I love touring. I love setting up. I love sound check. I love the whole process. I love, seeing the world. I love, even if it's, I do a lot of solo shows too, like solo noise shows. And even that, it's just me and a couple suitcases on a train, setting up in some hole in the wall concrete club.
You gotta do it.
Yeah, I love it. I right before the pandemic, I did a small West Coast tour with Thief, and if people aren't familiar with Thief, they should check them out now. They're on Prophecy Records. They're amazing. But I did a small tour with them, and I love just setting up my gear and just being loud as fuck in some small club, and people just not knowing what the fuck is going on. It's so cathartic for me, and and no responsibilities except for set up my stuff, make noise, and then leave.
You have a half hour, or you have an hour,
Yeah,
to make whatever noise you want.
yeah. Usually with my solo stuff, it's noise. It's noise in the loose sense of the word, but I usually play 15, 20 at the most, because noise sets tend to get tiresome for people. But still, 15 minutes of just absolute, catharsis, and you're blasting all the thoughts out of your head. I'm breaking stuff, I'm falling on the ground. It's such a release for me. I really miss that, and I hope to get back to that soonish. We'll see. But
so where are you at currently? Are the shows popping off? Like locally. I just saw Soulfly recently, like literally yesterday.
You're in. Let me guess. I know
New York.
You're New York. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. We have a couple things here and there, but not much.
Right.
There was Primus played here last week. I wanted to go, but
okay.
I didn't. Yeah, it's just starting here, so I haven't been to a show. Last show I saw was I went to go see the Mr. Bungle reunion in LA in February 2020.
Was that with Full of Hell or no?
No, I saw him with Melvins and somebody else. I missed the opening act. Oh no, that's right. It was I can't remember. I missed the opening act, but it was definitely Melvins and Bungle, and it was fucking amazing. It was great. So that was the last show I attended aside from my own, and then the next week I went on tour with Thief, and then so actually I guess the last show was Thief and myself in Eugene, Oregon. But it was like fucking year and a half ago. So
Hell yeah.
Yeah, we'll see. I was supposed to go see a show next month here, Year of the Cobra, but they canceled that. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't have any shows on the horizon, but I would love to do it. How is
It,
this?
it's just weird. Like, I mean, there's like so example like Corn. They're a huge band,
Yep.
right? They're supposed to be playing on I don't know, like 3 days from now, but they had to cancel because the vocalist got COVID, and
Oh yeah.
it's weird. I'm not gonna shoot my thoughts in there because I'm not a science expert. I don't have a PhD or anything like that. But
Yeah.
I go to small shows and smaller shows usually. Like the 200 cap range
Right.
locally.
Mm-hmm.
I have the most fun there. But
Mm-hmm.
I'll go to bigger shows. But
Yeah.
um,
Same.
it's just weird because I feel like a lot of the arena shows and the bigger shows are just getting rescheduled, and
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. We just had Guns N' Roses here last week.
Yeah, with Wolfgang Eddie.
Yeah, I
Eddie's
believe
son.
so. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't go, but yeah. I mean, it was fucking packed and huge. And it just kind of surprises me that
Yeah,
that
they're
even
doing.
happened.
Yeah, I mean,
But-
like it's funny you say that because like I have doubts. Like Incantation had to drop their Europe tour because
Yep.
obviously they had to go overseas and blah blah blah. But
Right.
I feel like the small venues is a good stepping stone, and then I'm seeing these bigger shows happen, which to me is extremely like I don't know relieving
Yeah.
because
Mm-hmm.
since the beginning of this podcast, like there's been so many mood swings because like some people get on and their whole life revolved around playing shows.
Right. Oh yeah.
And now like people saying to me like Guns N' Roses is fucking playing. It's like
Right.
thank God, man. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
thank God.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I've got a lot of friends that are, professional musicians, full-time musicians, or venue owners, or promoters, booking agents, and it's their not only their passion but their livelihood, and it's been really rough. I mean, luckily that's not the case for me, um, but yeah, it's been absolutely devastating for a lot of people that I know and love, and I just kind of wish that people would get vaccinated so we can get this shit done with.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I feel it, man. Like I got vaccinated because of music. I mean, like I knew I didn't. Okay, let me re-put that.
Yeah.
I didn't. I assumed that going to shows would require a vaccination, so I said to myself, "I'm going to get it." Do you know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to get it either way. There's gonna be something in the future that I'm gonna want to do, and they're gonna say the only way to do it is if you have your vaccine.
Yeah.
So
That's how the shows are here, as far as I know. That they're all requiring, proof of vaccination, and some places are requiring negative COVID tests too,
mhm.
which I think is probably smart. I can't imagine like how that works really, but I haven't experienced that yet. But yeah, I don't know, man. It's a whole fucking can of worms. But I
I think it's a bigger. I think it's like a jug of worms, bro.
yeah, seriously, it's yeah. I'm so sick of it. I was just telling my wife earlier. I mean, I'm so sick of talking about it, thinking about it, worrying
Yeah.
about it. Like I just wish, I mean, this is not a unique idea. It's not like I'm the only one that ever thought of this, but it's just like I just wish it would go back to how it was, so I could just like, oh, maybe hang out with my friends or like play
Yeah.
a show or like see a fucking show or like, like, oh my God, like it's just enough already. I just want it to be done with.
Yeah, it sounds to me like did you say Oregon?
Yeah, I'm in Portland, Oregon.
So it sounds to I mean it's opening up more near me. Like there's 3 shows in the next couple weeks. Like within the next week, there's 3 shows happening.
Hmm.
Where I'm at, there's a lot of stuff that's going on musically,
Are you
but
in
I
the
feel
city?
no, like Rochester, New York.
Okay.
That's where a lot of the music's happening. But I feel like where you're at, it doesn't seem like it's as open
Well,
as
it's getting there. It's getting there.
yeah.
I mean, we've had a lot of like strange like guerrilla shows. Like people, especially in the noise scene, people have been like setting up like in weird fields with generators and like doing like these
Yeah, dude.
weird like outdoor shows.
Yeah.
I unfortunately didn't attend any of those, but yeah, I mean it's coming back, but it's coming back slow. I think. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what's right. It's like I'm vaccinated. My whole family's vaccinated. I feel like it's pretty safe for us, but
Yeah.
at the same time, like I'm trying to be, respectful of other people's situations. Like I understand that I can probably still carry shit, so I'm trying to be, trying to be cool with other people that like can't get vaccinated. I don't really have any patience for people that won't, but the people that can't, I'm trying to be cool with that. I've got a friend or two that can't, so
Right.
it's just, man, it's just there's so many gray areas. This is a harder subject than the fucking censorship you brought up earlier.
Oh, I know, man. Yeah, yeah.
It's crazy. It's crazy. So I mean, personally, like I have no shows on the horizon. I thought I might have a tour this fall, but it doesn't seem like that's happening. But yeah, I mean, I'm hopeful for next year. I've got tickets to MDF for next year.
Yo, we're meeting up then, bro.
Dude, let's do it.
Well,
Yep.
wait, which one? Which one?
Oh, well, Maryland.
Maryland. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
because there's a few of them. There's
Yeah, the California. Yeah, yeah.
I'm going to Maryland.
I was gonna go to California because my friends in Bodies Lay Broken are playing, and I haven't seen them in fucking forever. But man, when I saw Dismember and Carcass announced, I was like, okay, I'm going to MDF. Gotta go.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, I've never been to a music festival ever. So
really, none,
dude.
dude.
None.
Okay, well, this is the one to go to. I mean, MDF. I've played it twice, maybe. I can't remember. Been there a couple times, but man, this year or next year, obviously. But Dismember, Carcass, fucking Hypocrisy,
Morbid Angel, bro.
Morbid Angel. I mean, so many good things. I just felt like I couldn't pass it up. I've seen Carcass a number of times. Carcass is very important to me.
Yeah.
But Dismember, I can't pass that up. That's worth it right there for me. So,
yeah, pack the bags up.
Totally.
I'm going.
Yeah. Yeah. So me and a couple friends are flying out from Portland to go. I'm excited. I'm just hoping that things are more quote unquote normal by then. Yeah. But even if like, you know what, I don't care about wearing a mask. Like I'll wear a mask fucking all the time. I don't care. I don't care about wearing a little piece of cloth over my mouth. But what I care about is like when there's restrictions to what I can do. If MDF gets canceled, then yeah, I'm going to be bummed. So if I have to wear a mask the whole time, I'll do that. That's whatever. Like I'll do it. Right. But yeah, I hope it doesn't get canceled. I mean, so many things have been canceled, but so many things have not been canceled too. So
I literally can't wait. I haven't bought my ticket yet, but because
you should.
Yeah, because like I'm like $300. That's like a roll of the dice because it says no refunds, but at the same time, dude, at the same time, man, I'm like, fuck, I gotta go.
Well, if it does get canceled, then it'd probably be they'd try to get the same lineup or similar to it for the next year. That's how these things are working. It's like no refund, but you have a ticket for the following year. You know? I mean, but then you have situations like Psycho Las Vegas where, like the big headliners, they all cancel because they couldn't come over, like Emperor, like a bunch of friends that were going to Psycho because of Emperor. And then, Emperor cancels. And then it's okay, well, shit, now I'm stuck with this ticket to Las Vegas.
That's what I mean. That ticket ain't cheap, dude. It's like a 3-day pass. It's like $300.
Yeah,
So I'm
yeah,
like,
yeah. I
I'm
bought
like,
mine.
I better be seeing Morbid Angel, man. Come on.
Seriously.
If
Yeah,
I'm dropping 3 stacks.
yeah, yeah. Totally. Have you seen Morbid before?
Yeah, I've seen
Yeah,
them. I've seen them twice, and they kick ass. And to talk to them too, and like, and just get the whole thing, you know,
yeah.
just I don't know. They're just good dudes, and they write good music, so I'm gonna
Oh yeah,
support
man.
them.
Yeah, they're great. They're great. I've seen them a bunch of times. Agalloch played with them once, I think. Yeah, man, that was amazing. We played with. It was in Southern California. It was Scion Fest, and it was us, Obituary, and Morbid Angel.
Uh
Dude,
huh.
it was fucking so amazing. Like
Bro,
we
Obituary,
yeah,
man. I
yeah. It was
can't wait. They're coming soon too.
oh, dude. So their live show is one of the best out there, hands down. Like still to this day, like they are like they're one of the best active death metal bands.
Yeah.
They're so fucking good. Man, last time I
I,
saw them was like 3 years ago or so. It just blew everyone else off the stage. It was Cannibal, Obituary, and Death Angel, and Obituary killed everybody. It was just phenomenal.
I think the one thing I really like about Obituary is like they're pretty bare bones. Like
Yeah, yeah,
they're how do I put this? Okay, they're not an extremely technical band, but what they do offer is like the um how do I put this? The emotion,
oh yeah,
they
dude.
they are front and center. They're like
Yeah,
so um like the chords they use in specific,
yep.
um they're just so punchy.
Oh
And
yeah, oh,
I
yeah,
know that's gonna translate live very
yeah.
good. I haven't seen them before, but
So
I
good,
mean
man. So good.
I've watched like YouTube videos and I'm like, bro, I can't wait.
Yeah, they're so good. They're super tight. The guitar tone is exactly what you want from them. It's just perfect. Every time I've seen them, it's just been absolutely perfect. So, yeah, you're definitely in for a treat.